Welcome everyone to tonight's town hall meeting with the Pullman City Council. My name is Megan Guido. I'm acting as Mayor Pro Tem tonight. The town hall meeting offers an opportunity for residents to present topics, ask questions, and give their feedback. And we have a lot of people here today, and we're happy to see it. We're happy to have the engagement and your input. So with this number of people, it requires us to manage the process to ensure that everyone who wants to speak has a chance to speak. And we are expecting a lot of comments on certain subjects, namely the downtown trees and the downtown design. But we also want to hear what is on residents' minds other than that. If you have other subjects, this is the time to bring those forward and let us know what you're thinking. So please be respectful. If you are hearing comments made that echo what you were going to say, consider maybe foregoing that. So in the interest of time and giving everybody a chance to speak on the subjects that are important to us. With that, we want to make tonight's format as fair as possible, but also be respectful of the allotted time. We will have a hard stop at 9 p.m. That is what we advertise, 7 to 9 p.m. And when the recording of the town hall will stop at 9 p.m. And we are recording tonight. It's not being broadcast, but it will be available on YouTube later on. If you have more comments or didn't have a chance to speak, the council members will be here after 9 p.m. and you're more than welcome to come talk to us. But remember that you can also provide comments to us anytime. We are always listening and receiving those comments by email, so feel free to send those as well. We're asking everyone who wants to speak to sign in, and hopefully everybody has had a chance to do that. We have approximately, I'm looking at about probably 30 or so folks, and we'll be asking people to present in the order that they signed in. Due to time constraints, we're limiting comments to 2 minutes per person, max. And again, this is an information gathering session. We want to hear from you. And we will take this information into consideration and discuss with staff and most likely at our next city council meeting, October 10th. As a reminder, I want to share some of the ground rules. So we do allow space for others to share. Keep comments short and concise. This will be your chance to try and be very concise with a 2-minute time limit. Respect others. Please stay on topic. Please do not criticize individuals or interrupt the speaker. And again, in the interest of time, I'm going to introduce my fellow council members and the ward that they represent. And to my left is Ann Ward. I keep saying that. Ann Parks, representing Ward 1. And Nathan Weller, representing Ward 2. And Eileen McCall, at large. And Pat Wright, representing Ward 3. I am also representing Ward 3. Francis Benjamin, representing Ward 1. And Becky Dubin, representing Ward 2. So I have in the back a few folks to help us out, and Mike Urban is going to be our timekeeper. And you want to share how you're going to let people know when their time is up?
Sure, I have a couple signs here. I'll give you a 1-minute warning, a 30-second warning, and then the time's up. So if you're up front speaking and check at me a little bit, I'll have those in the way for you.
Wonderful. Okay, thanks, Mike. So with that, we are going to begin, and I'm going to have my colleagues help me things on track. The first person up is Suzanne.
Excuse me, Madam Moderator.
Yeah.
I was just informed moments ago that there was phone calls between council members that decided the format of this meeting. And I kept hearing the words, we decided, with a series of phone calls. In my opinion, this was an inappropriate serial meeting. I don't object to our format this evening, but I object as to how it was derived. And I do believe that we are still using Roberts as our parliamentary authority, and that will be governing this evening.
I appreciate what you're saying. It was to get input on the format for the meeting. It was to receive input and discuss the format of the meeting. So
That's the discuss part is concerning me.
no decisions were made.
No voting.
No voting.
Okay. We are
We
using
do
up
need
valuable
to.
time.
We do need to move on.
Okay, so first up, this is Suzanne
Sakwa.
And then if Lisa Carloy and the students from the College Hill Association, or pardon me, people from the College Hill Association could line up so we can just keep people going to the podium. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Suzanne Copan-Sakwa. I'm here on behalf of the Pullman Civic Trust. I'm a resident of Pullman. I drive all around town as a carpool queen, and you'll see me on occasion on my electric scooter. Current architectural designs show the bike path next to the pedestrian sidewalk. Also, the final design animation on the Project Downtown Pullman website shows the bike path next to the pedestrian sidewalk. I foresee a potential conflict between fast-moving bicycles and scooters and slower-moving pedestrians. My mid-grade electric scooter has a top speed of 15 miles per hour on a flat surface. I would be shoulder to shoulder with a pedestrian. Yes, the bike path is going to be a different color, but it is even with the road. Additionally, downtown businesses on the northern side of Main Street have seasonal outside seating that extends into the sidewalk. I cannot wait to sit and talk at the tables of Neil's Coffee and Ice Cream and reminisce about what Pullman used to look like. But in the current plan, the seating will push pedestrians towards the bike lane. Let's consider an amendment to the plan and follow the guidelines put forth by the National Association of City Transportation Officials. Bring the bike path closer to the street. There's room for a 4-foot buffer between parked cars and the bike path, protecting both car passengers and the bike path from door swings. Then on the other side of the bike path, there's trees and planters. Then the pedestrian sidewalk. This amended plan is safest for pedestrians and bike path users. Thank you, City Council. Thank you, Pullman residents.
Could we ask that people speak much closer to the microphone? I mean,
Should I start?
Sure.
My name is Lisa Carley. I grew up in Pullman, and I returned to Pullman in 2005. I've been a leader in Pullman Civic Trust for 15 years. I appreciate Pullman, and I'm excited for this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to refresh our downtown all at once. But while I'm excited about the project, there are a couple of design aspects that I think need to be improved. First and foremost, I'm alarmed by the inclusion of 4 very large monuments located at the entrance to Pine Street Plaza. These monuments are the size of an 8-foot-tall refrigerator located at the most dynamic and busy intersection along Main Street. We have mock-ups here of the actual size, at least the width. That's when the top fell down, so it's actually 7 feet instead of 8 feet high, to give you a sense of the scale. So Pullman Civic Trust was having a hard time envisioning the size and impact of monuments in the open space of downtown, so we made these rough mock-ups of them out of the boxes to help us envision the size and scale. We found this to be helpful for us, and we wanted to share the visual with you, so we've brought them here today. Pine Street Plaza is a key gateway into downtown and to Pullman's trail system. People enter that space traveling north and south through the plaza, east and west along Main Street, embarking and disembarking from the bus, and entering and exiting the businesses. Given their size and location, we believe that these monuments pose a significant safety hazard. The new Main Street bike path passes through the interior of the space defined by the monuments. The monuments block the line of sight for cyclists and pedestrians merging between the plaza and Main Street. Pedestrians need to skirt around the monuments, which can push them closer to the bike lane. People stopping to read the names on the monument are put in the uncomfortable position of further impeding traffic flow and are put in harm's way. One of the main goals of the downtown revitalization is to create more open and spacious feel. The addition of these monuments is contrary to that vision. Furthermore, the monuments impact the ambiance of the plaza. Currently, the open flow of the plaza creates a pleasant and welcoming gathering spot that hosts many of Pullman's family-friendly events. I worry that the public is unaware of the inclusion of these large monuments in the downtown update because the monuments are not shown in the final design video, and instead the video on the website shows and celebrates the friendly open spaces. So I wanted to bring that to your attention and offer some scale. Thank you.
Hi, I am Dave Jones here with Bob, Katie, and Allison Montrotolo of the College Hill Association, and we are on the Urban Tree and Forestry Subcommittee. We did want to thank everyone for doing this. I work in student engagement for the Center for Civic Engagement, so having a town hall is really cool. It's very amazing that we get to do this. Thanks for holding it. We want to start by thanking Fern for all of the work that she has done, and we think this is a wonderful time as Fern moves on, that we move from a city arborist to an urban forester position. It's been said that the best time to plant a tree is 10 years ago, and the second best time is now. And have an urban forester position working for the city, whether full or part-time, would help ensure that responsible action is taken regarding trees at all times. We can have more to say. 2 minutes is a limited time period, but we can have more to say in comments. But we'd also like to advocate for the promotion of a robust and sane regulatory environment. We've proposed a few things in the past, such as having a tree inventory, a list of suitable trees for their various locations, particularly in park strips and in the right-of-way. It can be for both downtown and in neighborhoods in particular. While I am on the College Hill Association, I'm also a resident of Sunnyside, and I wish Sunnyside had a similar organization that worried about trees like this group does. Bob, I think, has put his money where his mouth is as well, and some of the College Hill, their advocacy as well with a tree banking idea, and we can have more to say of that later, but those are some of the pragmatic policies that we would advocate for. Thanks. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh.
Kevin Owens?
Kevin Owens, Cyberstorm Defense. My specialty is cybersecurity, especially for critical infrastructure, water, wastewater. The Biden administration actually gave $1 billion to the states and districts of the United States to help secure our municipalities and our critical infrastructure, and this was doled out to the states. The first chunk to the state of Washington was $4 million. They had a very quick turnaround on that money, and I tried to get it this summer in July, and I ran into a lot of opposition from, I don't know how to accept external funds. We don't have a process, and all this trying to go for this money needs to go through city council, and that $4 million now is gone, but it's broken up over 4 years. The next chunk of money is $8 million for the state of Washington. And I think this is something we should go for. The next fiscal year starts in October. So, it's a big chunk of money. 50% of that is to go to rural communities that we live in here. I assessed for the city of Pullman the water utility, so I'm very familiar with some of the problems. And one of the big things I was looking to address was ransomware, which is one of the biggest threats to city. So putting in a place to help make sure that the city doesn't get hit with ransomware, as well as have things back up so we can restore quickly and not have a disruption to our city systems as well as our water and wastewater systems. So, thanks.
Thank you. Next is Hagata, GPSA students, please. Thank you. And then Nancy Mack and Nick Pizzilios.
Good evening, City Council members and all the other attendees. My name is Tathagata Pal, and I am the current VP of Legislative Affairs for the WSU Graduate and Professional Student Association, GPSA, and I am here with my other fellow graduate students. So GPA represents around 2,200 graduate and professional students here in Pullman, and we really appreciate the discussions that we have had over the past few months with some of the City Council members. We hope GPSA can work with the city to address some of the pressing issues. Firstly, graduate students are struggling with food security due to the lack of affordability and access. Secondly, graduate students who rely on public transportation are also struggling to commute to and from campus and move around the city. We hope that the city can support in establishing a direct route from apartment land loop to the inner campus bus stops. Third, the graduate students are hoping that the city will help to formulate a community-based solution to the safety issues that we are currently facing, especially because of the recent event of attack on 5 of our graduate students. Fourth, affordable childcare is a huge problem for graduate and professional students who are also parents. We hope some of these issues will make way to your 2023 legislative priorities. We look forward to continuing to stay connected with the City of Pullman, and thank you so much for listening.
Oh, wow.
Thank you. Nancy Mack.
Good evening. I'm here to protest the Welch-Comer design for the Pine Street Plaza, which is the downtown living room of Pullman. The proposed towers, as you see here, are just way too large and bulky for a place that needs to be used for groups of people attending programs or passing through. When I first saw this plan, I looked at that and I said, four-sided, they almost look like they belong in a cemetery, and maybe the people's names are deceased and their ashes are inside or something. It just had a terrible negative opinion for me. But out of the respect for the people on the list to be listed on the monuments, I propose that their names be engraved on a wall of gratitude, where people could stop casually in front of a large wall and read all of the names without pacing around a pillar and interfering with traffic and disturbing events in Pine Street. I suggest the names be affixed to the red wall on the east side of the Brailsford Visitors Center, where observers can see all the names at once and obtain a leaflet inside with descriptive tales. The plaza needs to remain a place to sit and relax with a feel of openness and casualness. I also have another issue with Welch-Comer's design for a curve that's placed in the new bike lane that passes Pine Plaza on Main Street. Curves invite confusion and danger for pedestrians, children, and cyclists. To correct this error, make the bike path parallel with the sidewalk and place the trees along Main Street to the north side of the bike lane, creating a buffer that separates bicycles and pedestrians. And lastly, Pine Plaza was envisioned in the 1990s by the Pullman Civic Trust to have a circular pavement design that integrates with the curvilinear patterns that are near the waterfall and other spots in the city. The Welch-Comer design totally destroys that original intent because they intend to replace all of the brickwork in Pine Plaza with a very boring commercial stamped concrete design, which seems more like a driveway to me. I would like to retain the park-like feel of our only large area where we can congregate, relax, and pass through. And I look forward to these changes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nick.
No, he cedes his time. Thank you. Carolyn Gordon. And then Timothy Powlitz.
Good evening. My name is Carolyn Gordon, and I'm speaking as a resident of Pullman. I would also like to speak about the placement of the 4 Walk of Fame monuments as presented in the Project Downtown proposed plans. Obviously, we've given you a sense of scale. I think this really helps to emphasize the size of the monuments and some of the other features. In the original plans, these 4 large monuments were to be placed at the 4 corners of Main and Pine Streets. After review, the Washington Department of Transportation decided that their placement would impair traffic sightlines and requested that they be moved elsewhere. The Walk of Fame Committee and Welsh Comer, the designers, decided to move all 4 large monuments to the entrance to Pine Street Plaza. I see some very troublesome problems with this proposed placement. Clustering these 4 large monuments together will create a safety hazard for pedestrians and cyclists, as the monuments are located adjacent to the sidewalk and proposed bike path. They'll create a visual barrier at the entrance to the Pine Street Plaza, Pullman's premier gathering space. If the Washington Department of Transportation thought they were so large as to impair sightlines, clustering 4 together doesn't seem to be the answer. The location is not conducive to pedestrians stopping to actually read the names on the monument because they will be blocking the sidewalk or standing in the bike path, neither of which is an advantageous or safe location to stop. And finally, the concrete base of the monument as designed sticks out from the monument 6 inches on either side, creating a tripping hazard for pedestrians. I ask you to reconsider the placement of these monuments for the safety and aesthetic reasons I have outlined here. Thank you for your time and careful consideration of this request.
Thank you. Timothy Powlitz and then Jane Stavish.
Good evening. My name is Timothy Powlitz, and I've been a resident of Pullman for 23 years. I agree with a lot of the parts of this plan, but in my opinion, taking out the trees is going to run counter to the goals of that plan. Part of the difficulty has been this dichotomy that's been presented. We either have the trees or smooth sidewalks and not both. I think we can have both. The engineering is out there. Many cities have done this, such as Seattle. I also know that this was an opinion that was expressed by Welch Comer in some of the early council meetings that I watched in 2022. The council seemed to agree a plan could incorporate as many existing trees as possible, but realized that some would have to go and we would have to replace them with appropriate trees. But somehow the narrative has become we need to cut them down and replace them. It will take at least a decade to get the same level of shade again. And with the trees in this plan, it may never happen. They propose to replace them with small trees, columnar trees, and trees that are not the best choice. I know that the council and the city have spent lots of time and effort on this plan, and I thank you for that work. You've tried to make the best decision, but don't we want to stop and put the best plan out possible, even if that means taking a step back? I think we should pause the plan, listen to the concern of not just the tree people, but also the civic trust and the business owners, but especially the average citizen who supports these businesses and spend money downtown. But there's an additional win-win we can do, and that is if we pursue more federal funding. If you commit all the funding to the existing ARP money, you cannot go back and get the funding. And there is, for example, the bipartisan infrastructure law, $351 billion for highway-specific programs over the next 5 years. There is the Safe Street and Roads for All that was specifically targeted for local cities and tribes, not just states. Again, $5 billion for the next 5 years. Seattle just got $26 million for this. Missoula got $9 million for this, and they're about the same sizes that we are. So I think we should leverage as much of this work as possible with new federal funding, and if we're getting a new grant writer, I think that would be the #1 job. Thank you.
Thank you. Jane.
Hi, my name is Jane Stavish. I love trees, but I'm not going to talk about trees right now, okay? I have a whole nother subject to talk about, and that's safety. This is a small town with big city problems. Safety is a problem in this city. Drugs, alcohol, attempted suicide. I've taken to reading the police logs every morning, and it's quite shocking that a town of a little over 30,000 has this level of crime, specifically dogs, aggressive dogs, off-leash dogs. I came a month or so ago and spoke to all of you about my concerns. There's an off-leash dog problem in this city, and it's a problem, I think, partly from a lack of coordination between Animal Control, Police Department, the Whitman County Animal Shelter, the Whitman County Public Health Department, the medical services, the vet hospital. The dogs don't get told on. If your dog bites somebody, not my dog was attacked by a pit bull, as was my husband. Thank goodness they're okay. But just yesterday, a nearly 80-year-old woman was attacked on Southwest State Street. There's a problem here. Off-leash dog. So I talked to the Whitman County Public Health Department. There is no reporting requirement unless the victim reports it. Now, if the victim is afraid to report it because they're afraid of retaliation, the police aren't called, some neighbor drives this bleeding woman to the hospital, nobody's the wiser for it. So the police department log does not correctly, adequately show you what this real problem is. Go to Sunnyside Park any day of the week. Off-leash dogs everywhere, mostly big dogs off-leash. There are signs, those signs are ignored. I've talked to animal control, I've talked to the police department. They say they can't do targeted patrols. So what good are signs? What good are laws if there's enforcement? Okay? Yesterday, a woman died in Washington, Kennewick. She was mauled to death by 2 pit bulls, 65-year-old woman. Okay? Don't let this in here in Pullman, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Next is Liz and Pat Seiler. And Asdrin Coma after that. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Mhm.
Can you hear me? Okay. My name is Elizabeth Seiler, and I'm with Save Downtown Trees. I think the city has a communication problem. I think one of the biggest issues that concerns me is that the word communication and notification have become inflated or conflated. And the idea that if you just put out a notice, you've communicated with us. But I don't think that's the case. Now, I have a few questions here, and I want to ask them, and you can answer them later. I'll try to stay around, and you can maybe help me with the answers. Number one, I understand that in July of 2022, there was a survey done. Why was July, which is arguably one of the lowest populated months in this town, chosen to release a survey on the subject of the downtown plan? Number two, I understand it was done online. But there's lots of us who aren't on social media. Why? How was it online? How did this survey get released? I guess I want to know. Third thing, I'm the ESL specialist up in the English department at WSU. I'm here, though, as a private citizen. I do want to know, how were linguistic needs of businesses where the proprietors are not native speakers of English, how were those needs accounted for in designing this plan? And finally, I'm disabled, and I'd like to know how the disabled population was sampled to get their input on these plans that are attributed as to a need to accommodate us. I guess I'd like to know. Nobody asked me. See you later.
So the next person is Pat Seiler.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Hello, friends of Pullman. We presently have 70 or 80 beautiful ash trees in downtown Pullman, which many of us dearly love. We should add to this modest mitigation to climate change by undertaking a massive program of tree planting around Pullman. Imagine all these barren areas along Grand Avenue where we have no trees. Now, how can you have a Grand Avenue when there's this little motley collection of many species growing along there? Apparently planted with no rhyme or reason. Now, here's another example. Now, try to imagine you're tooling up Bishop Boulevard. You're walking up Bishop Boulevard. Find a tree. And you find one tree? I doubt it. There would be a great project if we had all of this largesse from the federal government to spend on a really great project that would help people, large areas of Pullman, especially those areas of high traffic and mercantile activity. If we had beautiful, robustly growing, a beautiful avenue, an alameda, a boulevard of trees, that would be great. So, my final point would be, we should be planting trees in Pullman, not cutting them down.
Thank you, and Liz and commissioners. I'm here for a similar reason. So I've only been a Pullman resident for about 6 years now, and I'm really driven by I'm coming here to comment to increase the quality of my life. And one of the things that I really enjoy is going out downtown with my family. I have a small 3-year-old son, and we like walking around along the main street and sitting and having a coffee at Thomas Hammer at that plaza. And I came here actually to speak about the trees mainly as well, but other minor issues, and depending on my time. I'm a doctoral candidate in environmental sociology, and there's plenty of research that shows that having greenery around us actually increases our quality of life, and it extends our health and increases our health. And I could share that literature with anybody who's interested in, but having that absence of trees, of large trees downtown, first of all, it directly impacts our health. Second, not only does it impact our efforts on climate mitigation, which is preventing the worsening of climate change, but it also prevents the ability of us to adapt to climate change. As temperatures rise, what happens is downtown areas become uninhabitable during the day in the summertime. And these large trees lower the temperatures downtown, and being in the shade actually makes it manageable to enjoy the time outside. So I just want for you to reconsider removing all the trees. Maybe you could remove just the problem trees. I've heard that it's a small minority of trees. And we could think about a way to preserve most of the trees, preserve the temperatures for the next 20 years until the other trees supposedly are supposed to grow, and increase the quality of life and health for everybody in Pullman. Thank you.
All right, thank you. John Anderson is next.
My name is John Anderson. I live at 861 Southeast Edge Drive in Pullman. I serve on the board of the Pullman Civic Trust. I want to reinforce the Civic Trust's proposal to move the 4 columns commemorating people who have made contributions to the city of Pullman. I don't want to repeat what other people have said, except that I think it's a visual barrier at the end of Pine Street Plaza when we want to be trying to extend Pine Street Plaza. Indeed, part of the plan calls for a raised crosswalk that would effectively extend the plaza across Main to the other part of Pine Street. Putting these 4 monuments in the current location would cut off the end of Pine Street Plaza. It's also a safety issue, as somebody else mentioned. I ride my bicycle through the plaza, turning onto Main and right towards Gladish. These columns, in my mind, should be dispersed to the corners of the intersection where they will not truncate the Pine Street Plaza. I agree with Nancy Mack that there might be even better places to put the names. I also agree with the Civic Trust proposal for the location of the bicycle path. Moving it closer to the street will make the sidewalk safer for pedestrians, but will still keep bicyclists a safe distance from automobile traffic. A 4-foot buffer between the edge of the bicycle lane and the curb, plus a parking area for cars, is easily an adequate buffer. The last issue I want to talk about is taking the time to get the plans right before pouring concrete. I appreciate the hope that this project can be completed before the first football game in the fall, but I believe more fervently that we should have plans for the downtown design that we want, even if it means difficult traffic on a fall afternoon. Those trees are about 25 years old, and I want to ask, what was traffic like on the first football game of the fall when those trees were planted? We need to get the plans right because that concrete is going to be there for quite some time. Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia Morehouse? Okay. Bill Engel?
Hi, I'm Bill Engels, Pullman resident. I urge the City Council to explore alternatives to replacing all or most of the downtown trees all at once. The environmental cost of losing our shade trees and waiting for the new trees to mature during a climate emergency is at least as great as the cost of investing in an alternative plan. And there are solutions, as we've heard. For example, what about a gradual or partial replacement of the trees? And there is also funding, as we have heard. What about the people of Pullman themselves as a funding source? Thank you.
Next up is Bryce Erickson.
Bryce Erickson, L Bicycles Downtown. Primarily, what I'm here to speak about is the Resolution R38-23, which was the allowing of, putting electric bikes and scooters together in a category and then allowing them on the downtown sidewalks. And I feel that that has created an unsafe situation so that business owners and people trying to get down the sidewalk, if you put about a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit on it, the sidewalks aren't safe hardly to walk on, much less run a scooter or a bike down them. Bikes and scooters are very different pieces of equipment. They handle different speeds and they go over road obstacles very different due to the wheel sizes. So I'm really concerned about the speed limit that they put on the electric bikes on the street. State of Washington considers class 1, 2, and 3 bikes on the street same as motor vehicles. By artificially constraining their speed, you create situations where drivers are, if the person obeys the law, drivers are going to be inconvenienced. There are points like going downhill on Stadium Way. If you go uphill, there's a bike lane, but when you go downhill, you're expected to be on the street, and gravity will easily push you into the same speed as other vehicles on the roadway. So I would like the City Council to revisit that sooner than later. I feel that as a resident of Pullman that we potentially are bringing the city into a liability situation. I don't think that was looked at and with the state law. Side subject, as a downtown business owner, I would like to see the City of Pullman, especially during the reconstruction process, take a very close look at using all the tools in the toolbox to minimize the damage to businesses, because it's going to cause us to be put in a negative situation, and I would just like every tool available to be used. Thank you.
Next up is Brandon Chapman.
Good evening, council and staff. My name is Brandon Chapman. I'm at 1110 Southeast Sunnymead Way. I want to start first by one bit of, I guess, appreciation. I saw the city had recently held a contractor accountable for a job that they were doing with resurfacing. I've sat where you are. I understand the difficulties in doing that. And for years, I think we've run scared. If we hold them accountable, they're not going to come back. But ultimately, I have felt for a long time that when we allow substandard work, that the residents are the ones who take the brunt of that, and contractors and developers, I mean, why buy the cow when you get the milk for free? They were laughing their way to the bank. So that, to me, was a great sign that we're moving in the right direction. We go out to bid, we get those bids, they say they're going to do the job right, and for a long time we weren't holding them to that. So thank you for that. In terms of public comment, from week to week and issue to issue, I realize that you sit up there and a lot of times you don't hear from anybody until after something happens, and that's not always the case. I recognize some people here that have spoken tonight that would come to meetings. Social media is usually where you find out after the fact, after decisions are made, and it's Lord of the Flies on social media. But at the same time, public comment is at the end of these meetings for 3 minutes, and you sit for hour upon hour sometimes to hear this public comment. It is far more respectful of residents' time to put that up front. And you have the authority vested in you to make that change to the rules of procedure. I know I brought that up several times, and both when I was on council and after. I think that's time to do that. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Bobby Ryder.
Good evening. Bobby Ryder here with Pullman Civic Trust, and I am the creator of these monstrosities. I think people have spoken about the problem of these at the entrance to the Pine Street Plaza, and thank you for taking note of that. I think it's telling, though, really how massive they are. And I've been told by people, oh, they aren't going to be that big. Yes, they are. They need to be removed from the downtown. We don't need that. That does nothing for economic development. I agree with recognizing people, but do that at the visitor center and do it in partnership with WSU. I've looked at the Walk of Fame. Most of those names on there are WSU names. So that should go on visitor center. The other thing I would like to know an answer to is that I had heard, actually from Mike, that the funding source for the Pullman, for the Pine Street Plaza made it so that these monoliths could not be there. I remember I was here when it was the Prop 1 vote of the people that funded the Pine Street Plaza. Would that mean that we would need to do another vote of the people if we were going to do something like this where there was this much objection? Thank you. And thank you, Chief Heston, for allowing these to stay.
All right. Thank you. Daria Winterer.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to keep it short. I'm here to talk about the trees. I just want to mention that, as we've heard, the trees are 25 years old. They have a life expectancy of 80 plus years. So the new trees we'll be putting in will not be shading anyone or close to mature, and they are not going to even have lived half of the life of the other trees. I urge you guys to reconsider their removal and only remove the ones that are necessary. The floating sidewalks in your plan, there's not very much literature on it, and you can install a floating sidewalk into a tree that already exists. Take your time. We don't have to rush before this next season. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Deborah Hirsch? Harsh.
Well, I'm going to talk about trees too. Humans
have been living on this planet for millions of years, and the trees have been considered sacred until our time. These trees that are living on our sidewalks, a relationship with these trees helps people in more ways than you're thinking. Not just wood, not just shade, not just help from global warming, but help from trauma and depression. A relationship with trees, with plants, has been shown to be the most effective treatment for trauma. And who's not traumatized in this world? It's also a very important part of any treatment for depression. It also cuts down crime. People who relate to nature, people who relate to trees, are much less likely to commit crimes. And cities that plant trees and have active relationship with their trees have less crime. Now, I know the trees are messy, and there's about greed issues about business and humanness, but I think we can work that out. I think it's important to preserve our past, and those trees are important to me as a citizen of Pullman since 1982, and it's also important to me the brickwork and the beauty that we already have there. The plan just completely demolishes the feeling of our town and puts something that can be found anywhere. Those trees are our trees. I feel really close to them, and I don't know. I just want to say it's more to me about respect and the sacredness of life than it is really just about whether we're going to get it done by football season and make more money or not. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Karen Johnson?
Hello, I'm Karen Johnston. I'm a representative of the Pullman Civic Trust, and my husband and I own a business in downtown Pullman. I want to discuss the entrance to the bike path that is proposed on Main Street. So currently, when you look at the video that was put out as the representative of downtown Pullman, that video shows the bike path starting at the west of Oasis and then continuing west onto Main Street, or parallel to the sidewalk. When you look at the drawings that we looked at through the Civic Trust, it looks like that bike path enters somewhere in the vicinity of the YMCA or sanctuary, which if anyone's ever come in or out of the sanctuary and YMCA driveway, you will know that that is a treacherous driveway. It's at an obscure angle. It's the intersection where Main and Spring cross. I'm 100% a believer that our welcome to Main Street and welcome to downtown needs to start at that Spring and Main intersection, but I believe that the actual bike path should go with the videos and not with the drawings. So the videos that have been put out to the public have that path starting to the west of Oasis, between Oasis and the law office, I believe. I think that's a professional office, and not in front of Sanctuary or the YMCA. Making that as part of the entrance, absolutely. The YMCA and Sanctuary need to be part of that downtown corridor. But preserving that entrance for the bike path would be definitely a huge safety issue for our pedestrians, our bikers, and our cars that are going in and out. If anyone's driven that convoluted intersection anyway, there's a weird angle, and then you're adding a driveway into it. So again, thank you from the perspective of safety of everyone at that intersection. We do appreciate it and really hope that you stay with the video and not with the drawings. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up is Nancy Nicker.
Hello, my name is Nancy Neidiger. I own a small business, Just Trade, and sell fair trade crafts. and I have to cut some of this. Thank you to everyone who's worked so hard on the downtown Pullman project. I want to save the trees. There are methods to replace the sidewalks and save most of the trees. We talked with a scientist at Cornell on Friday. She had lots of good suggestions and guidance. The money for this project is from ARPA, the American Rescue Plan signed in March 2021. There is also more money available from the IIJA, Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, AKA the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, signed in November 2021. Once the ARPA money is spent, the city cannot go back and ask for more money from the BIL for the same work. The BIL has 1.2 trillion, yes, trillion for infrastructure. It is available to sub-state entities such as towns and tribes. We leverage these dollars the way grant dollars were leveraged for the Pullman Airport expansion. Safe Streets for All is a program of the BIL that runs through 2026. The definition of safety is broad. Seattle has received Safe Streets money. Washington DOT should pave Main Street as it is a state highway, therefore saving us money. I think we should pause the project and tweak some of the concerns the community has, keeping the trees, the bike lane design, the Pine Street Plaza design, and others, get some of the money from BIL federal funds. The ARPA money has to be committed by December 2024 and spent by December 2026, so we have time. The Washington Department of Natural Resources Urban and Community Forestry Program has at least $6 million in grants for the 2024 grant cycle. We need to have firm plans to support our businesses during the construction phase. It will disrupt their work and daily lives. Can we find ways to mitigate the dirt and dust from the connections? Can we find funding to support them through the loss of income? I know everyone is tired and burnt out from working on this project, but if we pause, adjust some of the design details, and get more money, we can have a great downtown that satisfies more of the residents who work, live, and spend money in our community. Thank you again for all of your hard work.
Thank you. Pamela Lee.
Can you hear me? A little bit. Can you hear me? Closer? Yeah. There we go. I'll hold it. I'm here to express my great concerns that removal of downtown canopy will have serious negative consequences to downtown businesses, especially during summer months when temperatures soar. Businesses will be burdened with thousands of dollars increased air conditioning expenses over the next years as a direct result of the canopy. When I read the city's September press release published in the Daily News, I was upset with the pre-verification and paltering fact. The current plan is to remove 75 trees, most of them healthy, and replace with 53 saplings. 53 is not greater than 75. Dell of Welsh Comer presented council with 3 options for the trees. Council chose the most destructive clear-cutting. This will hurt business. I'm offended that disability was melded with destruction of the canopy. I did not walk 2 blocks. I couldn't walk 2 blocks 7 out of 9 months this year. ADA access in the Welsh Comer plan is minimal. There will be no disabled parking on between Grand and Kamiakin. Disabled people will need to walk from Olson to Main. There will be 1 ADA parking spot on Main near Pine Plaza, 1 ADA spot Spring to Pine. Fact, there will be wider sidewalk on the north side of Main Street from Pine to Spring, so if a disabled individual wins the ADA parking competition, then they can sit in searing temperatures without shade and contemplate the decaying Ford restaurant Mimosa. Pause. Please, pause and talk to your voters. We want Pullman businesses to thrive. We want shade, stagger tree replacement. We need 3 ADA parking spaces on Main between Kamiakin and Grand to gain access to our wonderful restaurants in Pullman. This can be accomplished with blue paint and signage that will not cost $9 million. Pause the plan. Thank you.
CJ Roberts.
Hi, my name is CJ Robert. I've owned 3 businesses in downtown, Pups and Cups, Grander Goods, and it's Pokemon. Over the past months, our local business owners diligently sought to provide input on the project's design to the tune of 60 to 70 design notes by businesses owned, with the hope of ensuring that it aligns with the needs and interests of our community. Unfortunately, these concerns have not received the attention they deserve. The design issues that have emerged, such as the placement of trees and additional landscaping, are not minor. They have the potential to profoundly impact the livelihoods of our local businesses. One of the primary concerns is the placement of trees, particularly in front of restaurants that rely on outdoor seating for their patrons. These new tree placements, along with the accompanying useless landscaping, threaten to disrupt the flow and functionality of these businesses. The result could be a loss of valuable outdoor seating space, such as in front of my business and in all of my businesses. Our business owners have been working diligently on this matter since March, seeking opportunities to engage in a productive dialogue with the city. They have expressed valid concerns about the potential loss of sales, which data suggests could range from 60 to 80% during the construction phase, lasting 4 to 6 months. For these businesses, this is not merely a minor inconvenience, it could be an existential threat. At the original onset of this project during the Pullman 2040 process, it was clear that the overall goal was to extend the sidewalks throughout downtown and make Pullman a more walkable downtown with larger outdoor areas for citizens to enjoy. This was highlighted by the master plan. I found out that after March, when we were shown what the actual plan was, that we did not, in fact, have additional significant sidewalks. We only had a foot and a half with trees absolutely in the way and useless landscaping that would nullify whatever extra additional sidewalk we did gain. Ignoring these concerns would not only be disservice to our local business owners, but also a missed opportunity to create a downtown that truly reflects the values and aspirations of our community. It's imperative that we acknowledge these design flaws. I highly suggest you look into what's called the flex lane option, which would have allowed for an entirety of downtown to have 4-foot sidewalks. But this was literally voted away by one meeting with 6 individuals, which not even the entire steering committee was even there. Again, there's no record of this as well, so good luck finding that, because there was no minutes. Anyway, pause. Please pause and redo the design, as you've heard from all these amazing individuals here. Thank you.
Forgive me if I mispronounce this. It's a little hard to tell. Marsh Yim?
Yeah, my name is Mariam, and obviously I'm here for Save the Trees. In 2021, the United Nations released a report that unequivocally says humans are causing climate changes. We urgently need to take responsibility for our actions and their impact on the environment. Although we are citizens of the Palouse, we are global citizens as well. Downtown plans need to be flexible and adapt to our climate crisis. Every effort should be made to keep our mature trees, since they are more efficient at photosynthesis, absorbing carbon dioxide, and emitting pure oxygen. Their leaves filter out fine particulate matter, one of the most dangerous forms of air pollution generated from burning biomass and fossil fuels. The downtown proposal does not fully take into consideration healthy community design. The environment in which we live, work, and play is closely associated with our health and our carbon footprint. Green space access is one example of a community design element that benefits both climate and health. Most of the existing mature trees are healthy, already acclimated, and could live for at least another 20 to 30 years. Without them, there are no green space downtown. Our trees improve the quality of life for inhabitants of downtown Pullman as well as businesses. Trees provide health benefits to our residents and improve the mental health for all of us. Researchers have discovered reductions in both violent and petty crime, including domestic violence, through the therapeutic, calming influence of mature tree plantings. We all need to have a direct connection to nature for our own well-being. Our 76 trees store more carbon dioxide, provide far more shade and habitat for creatures, and due to their size, are far more visually appealing than the proposed replacements. As far as trees go, the bigger the size, the bigger the impact. Mature trees are more resilient to changes in the local climate. We need to retrain our trees, doing our fair share in helping to address climate change, and to send a clear message that we care about protecting our environment. Clear-cutting downtown Pullman and replacing 76 mature trees with 3 to 4 inch saplings is arrogant, shameful action taken by irresponsible climate change deniers. Thank you.
We have 2 more people on the list, and it is a little bit after 8. If there are other folks that still want to comment, and certainly other topics are open and available to express your thoughts on as well. I remind you of that. So I'll start, or we'll continue with Connor Nellis. Do I have that right?
Hi, I'm Connor Delwo. I've lived here since 2019, and I'm currently, it's okay. I'm a software engineer at SEL. I live a few blocks southwest of downtown, and I love walking downtown in the summer and supporting our businesses, and the trees really allow me to do that. And to be honest, if we got rid of them, I probably should have written something to say, but if we got rid of them, I would be far less inclined to go on there. It'd be really just not attractive in the summer, really just become another crappy strip mall with bad parking. I'd rather go to Moscow at that point. I really think that the trees are a huge asset that the council is overlooking. I'm sure replacing the trees with similarly aged trees would be prohibitively expensive, so I'm not sure why it's not prohibitively expensive to get rid of them. And to me, the trees are too small already for a city of this age, and they're just major asset. They really make the place beautiful. It's definitely going to be less attractive without them. I don't know why you'd ever want to get rid of them. I know places have expanded sidewalks without them. I've never heard someone say our sidewalks aren't wide enough. If you walk downtown, they're wide already. I really think we should reconsider removing those trees, especially with saplings. I had no idea that they were going to be saplings. That's like, I can't even imagine that. It's just uglier. No one will want to go there. It's not going to be good for businesses. It's ridiculous to me.
All right, thank you. Ingrid Johansson.
Thank you. I grew up in Pullman. I'm giving an approximation. I lived here maybe approximately 20 years. I was gone about 30 years, and I've been back in about another 20 years. So in that middle 30 years, I lived in a lot of big cities, Denver, Albuquerque, the New York City area, Philadelphia. Philadelphia I lived for a long time. I'm so glad to be back here. I love it here. I heard about the trees. People had signs and were saying they're going to take down all the trees. So I don't know all the issues involved, but I just have my own reaction to taking down the trees. One is, I love the trees. And I know everybody has their own taste. However, I think it's fairly common to love trees because, okay, I'm really hard of hearing, and I don't watch TV or go to movies very much because it's not fun for me because I can't hear very well. So I read books. In books, at least, if you want to describe a pleasant neighborhood, a beautiful neighborhood, a desirable neighborhood, it's described as having tree-lined streets. It's a cliche. Trees are lovely to have in streets. It's not just me. That's my 1 point. I really like the trees. Number 2 point, when I was in Philadelphia, and I don't remember all the details, I don't remember when it was, there was a time when they had trouble with the trees because they had a disease. I think it might be Dutch elm disease, but I'm not sure. There were a lot of trees that had some disease and died off, and they had to take down a lot of other trees because to keep it from spreading. It seems a shame to get rid of healthy trees and replace them with tiny new trees, and maybe the healthy trees would stay and maybe the new trees are going to have some disease or something. If you have healthy trees, taking down seems counterproductive. And my third point, I had 3 points, is that we have a symbiotic relationship with plants. We breathe in oxygen, we breathe out carbon dioxide. They breathe in carbon dioxide, they breathe out oxygen. Trees, especially because they're so big, breathe in a lot of carbon dioxide, which is poisonous to us, and breathe out a lot of oxygen, which is healthy to us. So having the trees is a very big health, pro-health for us. Thank you.
Okay, we have made it through the list, at least that we received, so I'm going to give people an opportunity if they would like to speak and they didn't sign up, and we'll still do 2 minutes.
I could sign that afterwards.
Oh, that's
too.
okay. Thank you, Holly.
Hi, thank you. My name is Holly Greystone, and well, if we're keeping track of who has been talking about what particular topics, trees, so I'll just leave that since it's already been handled. What I haven't heard a lot about, what is concerning to me, is our pedestrian safety, which we have touched on regarding our bike path, which is excellent. I appreciate that. But we don't have enough crosswalks. I'm hearing from high schoolers that there's not enough crosswalks for them when they're going to school. They have, even in the wintertime, they have a hard time getting from one side of the street to the other, and there's not sufficient sidewalks. Obviously, our city has recognized that we have a crosswalk issue in downtown because they put orange flags there, and that's supposed to stop 4 lanes of traffic. And I have seen, as a business owner on that corner, I've seen multiple people get really close to being hit by cars. They have a flag and some don't have a flag. It doesn't seem to matter. There's a blind spot when you're crossing from McKenzie, Cross Grand. The second lane that starts isn't able to see past the cars that are stopping at the light. So they're nearly getting hit there. Thank you. And then in addition to that, in the wintertime, there's a giant mountain of snow that gets pushed down towards that area, create yet another blind spot now for the traffic going past McKenzie. So now you have points at that intersection that are a high risk to those individuals. When I was working in downtown, I saw multiple car accidents at the Grand and Main Streets. And pedestrians in the crosswalk going towards Cure & Co. have to look over their shoulder and pray to God that they understand what they're supposed to do, because they want to take a left, the other people want to take a right, but who goes? You, me, you, I don't know. And they either get in an accident, they get near miss, or the pedestrian gets really close to hit. Now, we have taken measures. College Hill Association has done a lot in their area to address increasing visibility in those crosswalks, and we have the means to do that. I believe the Complete Street program might even help fund that, but these are also state highways. Is that an option for us to have a conversation at the state level to increase visibility on at least the state highway, and then we can use the money in other areas on other hills so that people could have better accessibility? Thank you.
Don't worry about your address, just your name. Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Moke Slifer, and I have lived on Sunnyside Hill right above downtown for almost 30 years. I've worked retail in downtown for 15 years. I've loved living in Pullman. I came here from Oregon, actually. And I wasn't going to speak tonight because I've put out a lot of information about the tree issue. I'm an arborist myself. And so I've been very active in this group. But listening to everything everybody else has said, I do have two quick comments I want to make. And these are kind of really personal, actually. The first is, I am angry when I hear misinformation and disinformation put out about this project. I can speak only to the information I hear about the trees. When the city tells us repeatedly that there's no shade on the north side of Main Street, I have photographs proving otherwise. And I have to think, did none of you go downtown at Lentil Festival? I mean, most of us have sat on the north side of the street at some point in the shade of the trees at the Lentil Festival parade. Also, the misinformation about replacing the trees. It's clear from the landscape plan there will be less trees, not more than the current number. The other thing I want to say very quickly is I lost my sister and my mother earlier this year. It's been a really rough year for me. I have a very old dog who's probably going to go before the end of the year too. I've dealt with a lot of loss, and I live right above downtown. When I hear those chainsaws coming for all those 70 trees, I don't know how I'm going to cope. I'm an arborist. I tell people when trees need to come down. I know a tree that needs to go, but most of those trees don't, and it's going to be really sad for a lot of us.
So do we have any other folks who would like to speak tonight?
Hi, so I know everyone's been talking about the trees, but I wanted to give the perspective of someone who's just moved here. I am a first-year master's student. I moved here from the Seattle area where, you know, it's the evergreen state, and that's named for the western side with all the trees. And I moved here, and it was pretty depressing to see how few trees there were. And then I saw a sign that was actually on one of the trees downtown from the Save the Trees group. I scanned the QR code, and I was like, pardon my language, but oh shit, that's not good. So I want to say, yeah, those trees are very important for shade and well-being and what everyone else has already mentioned today. And I just wanted to give the perspective of someone who's new here, coming from a place that is full of trees and really, you know, not used to a place that's just kind of rolling fields of wheat. You know, it was a little depressing to see that. And I'm also pretty heat intolerant, so I would definitely go walking downtown if those trees weren't there. So thank you.
I'm probably the oldest one to get up today. My name is Richard Domi. I've been living here this is my 50th year in Pullman, and I've seen a lot of trees come and go in the downtown. And some of you may remember when we had fruit trees downtown, and all the pears and all the cherries and all the plums fell on the street, and we had lots and lots of yellow jackets downtown. Well, that's not the problem. The problem, we haven't talked about it all tonight. For the last 50 years, we have been talking about the problem with the through traffic downtown. And we ignore it. It's been 50 years since we've talked about it, but the problem is the through traffic. And no, the truckers don't stop for a cup of coffee, and the people going through to Moscow do not stop to buy clothes. Oh, clothes store? Oh, that was a long time ago, wasn't it? Sorry. We need to put much more effort on that. And yes, the trees need to stay, and we need to work around it. The people have said it all. It's, you know, you've heard it. it's time for us to make a decision. Unfortunately, I believe the people who did the study, the architects who came up with it, don't live in Pullman. To them, it's just a sheet that could have something done to it. We need to stop and think in terms of what does it mean to the people who live here? And that's what you've heard tonight. So let's act on that. Thank you.
So I'm going to ask again, anybody else? Because we are doing quite well on time. It's 8:17. Hi. Sure, you can do it after.
Yeah. Okay. My name is Benu Sharmani. I have lived in Pullman just about 14 months. I came from the northwest side of the state, where it's evergreen, as you said. And when I first came here for a visit, I noticed how ugly this town is, believe it or not. Okay? I didn't move here for the prettiness of this, that's the right word, for the beauty of this town. I came because where I lived on the west side was not a safe town, and I'm raising a son, and I wanted a safer town. So besides that, the only nice part of this town, really, is this one street, Main Street in downtown. And the only thing nice about it is the trees, okay? That's it. And these trees, if they're gone, I seriously believe that it's going to impact how these businesses are going to do. I'm serious. You guys have got to do something to revive the downtown. By removing the trees, it's going to kill the downtown. I guarantee it. You will see how little people will go to the downtown area when there is no place that they can really enjoy. So there's a lot more you can do with the downtown area, reviving the buildings that look horrible, so on and so forth. But the trees need to stay. Just get rid of the old sick trees. You had 3 plans. You chose the worst one. Go with at least the middle one. Anyway, thank you.
Anyone else?
I have a question, because I'm old and I'm bold. This was characterized as conversation, and many of us have done our side conversing. Can we hear something about our concerns?
Sure. And we just want to make sure we're going through the process and everybody has a chance to be heard. So, yes. Hi.
Should I go and start? Awesome. So my name is Carla. I'm a graduate student doing my PhD in computer science. And I just want to reemphasize what GPSA has mentioned. So first, graduate students are struggling with insecurity due to the lack of affordability and access. The current state of our stipends cannot keep up with the rising cost of food. Currently, graduate students make up 40% of the users of the Cougar Food Pantry. And on top of that, many of us live in a food desert where there are no grocery stores with affordable food, such as the apartment land area. So we could really use the help of the city, for sure. Secondly, grad students who rely on public transportation are all struggling to commute to and from campus and move around the city. And I know we have had some conversations about this, for sure, but we hope that the city can support in establishing a direct route from the apartment land loop to inter-campus bus stops to make commuting much more efficient and safer. Currently, the transfer point at Beasley Coliseum extends travel time for those who reach the other side of campus and things get significantly worse during this winter season. And it's also quite scary to cross Stadium Way when we try to make that transfer point. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to keeping these conversations going with the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Well, we want to give an opportunity for members of the council to respond and to hopefully address some of the questions if you remember them. And Councilmember Weller, are you?
Thank you, Councilmember Guido, for being Mayor Pro Tem, being able to do this, all of staff for being here, and also the community members. I've been here almost 16 years in this council position since I was 26. So, and this may not come off as well for the people I'm up here with, but I do feel I need to say. There's a few things. Some of you who have looked back at the videos, who have done the research regarding the trees, understand that I did ask all of these questions. I fought hard to keep these trees. This is a democracy. Everybody has their own reasons to choose how they vote. I didn't like the options. I voted for, I think it was, keep all the trees except for diseased ones. When Welch-Comer talked to us, they explained this would, I'm just saying what they said. I'm not saying I agree. They explained that the ADA would be affected and it would put the city into liable states where people could sue us because they didn't have full ADA access. So it was a difficult thing, I know, for all my fellow council members, for myself as well. I know I've met with Dr. Politz. I've met with many of you. I know many of you from the community, and I appreciate your passion, that you're here. I will say, I really, really wish that you were here on October 22nd to help me. And I know not everybody is able to either make those meetings or know that they're happening. This is why your involvement is so very, very important. So however things go forward, I think there's a couple options. I know that we're trying to listen to you as best we can. I know we made a lot of organization meetings, everything from the bikes to downtown to the businesses. I know myself, and I understand the rest of the council members who sit here with me, have been wearing out their shoes, running from meeting to try to listen to people, being on the phones, and damn, it feels good. I will say also on a few of things, just real quick, because I should be kept to a 2-minute limit as well. ADA parking is something that we are fighting for and we have been fighting for. It didn't show up in the designs, and we are trying to make sure that that is added onto Main Street, because we have heard that time and time and time again. And as somebody whose mom uses a walker, I hate that we don't have that down there. On the scooters and bikes that were mentioned, this is another one that I voted against because we did not have all of the information. But everybody has their own reason for voting why. to help people get downtown, to help people to travel. That's understandable. I think the last thing that I want to just quickly say, these friggin' monoliths should not be downtown. Okay? But I will say this. I did not think about this or how big they are until community members talked to us. Bobby, Lisa, thank you. So, in closing, for myself, we try to do the best that we possibly can. I try to do the best that I possibly can, and I'm sure all the council members do as well. We need you to be involved. We need you to tell us this is something that doesn't fit. This is what we want, but we need you to stay involved. So I really, really hope that this is not the last time that I see a packed meeting, and Brandon made a great point.
On the part of the designers was, but Nathan and I fought really, really hard on this. I did a ton of research on suspended sidewalks and the advantages they can have, their flexibility. I was at a contractor's event just last Friday, and I talked more about suspended sidewalks. There's all sorts of technology out there for suspended sidewalks. I fought for right from the very beginning, from the very, very, very first meeting, and every single time they told me it's too expensive. So it's not that they don't understand about suspended sidewalks, because I certainly do. So, I mean, are those budget constraints real or not? I don't know. I was just one voice. If we'd had people show up, you know, maybe educate themselves about the suspended sidewalks, we could have had them from the very beginning, just as we had to fight for the 80 parking. And those were two very, very frustrating points. CJ made the point about steering committee members not being at meetings or sending surrogates who just took notes. Very frustrating on my part. I mean, people sat there and, like I say, a surrogate just sits there and takes notes with no input. We had some really good people on that steering committee, but for whatever reasons, they weren't there. And a steering committee is there to help guide the process. Should we ever, I don't know, rejigger this somehow, we need to do a much better job of letting people understand what their obligation is when they serve on a steering committee, and we could have avoided some of these problems maybe 3 years ago, or even more than that. We had the COVID period where we had a chance to catch our breath, fall back and regroup. It was less than optimal. Thank you.
Councilmember Dubin?
Dubin. Yeah, I just want to say that I'm relatively new to the council. I've served now for 1 year and 9 months. And I actually applied because Dan Records, for whom I have a lot of respects, moved to Western. The only comfort for me now is that's where my daughter's going to college, so she gets to have access to him there. And in that time that I've been serving on council, I thought, I actually don't know what I particularly thought when I started, but in the time that I've been here, I've been profoundly impressed with the city and the process they go through. I'm kind of new. The process that we've gone through for this downtown project has been extensive. I remember years ago sitting in Gladish next to Dan when we were talking about parking, slanted reverse parking, if you remember that. And I was so impressed with how the city did that. Because although it was recommended by the consultants, the city said, the council at the time said, not entirely sure people are going to like this. We were assured it would lower the incidence of accidents, that this was just a really good idea. And so what the city did was, during the summer, they took a 6-week period to try it out and get feedback. And the feedback was resounding. We don't like it. So impressed with that process. And so it has been with this downtown project. There are so many aspects to this. It's multifaceted. I have heard at some point some people say, well, you know, what's the problem with the trees downtown, and there's one reason and another reason. And it's not that people are changing positions, it's that it is a very multifaceted problem that we have to look at from a variety of angles. Just as the role of the city council member, which I have slowly come to realize over these months, is not just to represent the people, although it certainly is to represent the people. It is also to take into consideration a number of factors that make the healthiest and best decision for the city, even if it's painfully unpopular. I've heard you all tonight. I've taken notes on everything you've said. It's actually profoundly important to me. So important that I do not in this moment want to have a go back and forth between the roots of the, I really want to sit with it and consider it. So if, and I'll say this too, for everyone who has emailed, who has requested to meet, I think with one possible exception of somebody I'm reaching out to now, I've tried to do that, to sit down and have long and sometimes difficult conversations. I'm not going to speak for my fellow council members, but I'll say this. I don't believe there's anyone sitting here who would happily chop down a tree just because it's in the way. That is not at all. This has been painful and been difficult. One of my greatest fears is, as we approach this project, for the trees, regardless of which, how many, whatever, the trees that must go because of whatever, it's going to be, as has been pointed out tonight, a very painful process. And one of my greatest fears is that we approach that day without any plan for it, without coming together as a community, without any honor of those trees and what they've meant to our town. I'm not entirely sure what that would look like, but when I think about the stewards that we are for this town, it reminds me of the stewards who came long before us, the Nimipu. And I wonder if there isn't some way we could honor the trees, the stewards who've come before us, long before us, and now. So again, I'd like to sit with the feedback. You've given this, and I'd like to respond at a later time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Parks.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, tonight for coming. It really has meant a lot to me and to, I think, to all of us. And the depth of comments that you made and your feeling in your heart, we really feel that. I will reiterate what Councilmember Dubin said. It has never been the intent of this council to remove trees, just to remove trees. We've gotten a lot of information over the past few years regarding the health of them currently, which we've discussed and heard about, regarding whether they can survive excuse me, the construction downtown. We're going to be taking out concrete several feet down from storefront to storefront, all the way across the street. I'm just telling, so there's just a question. I'm not validating, I'm just saying the question is, can they survive? That has been brought up to us. So these are things that we have to consider. I want to go back and get more information and see what we can do. And several of you have offered sources that you have spoken with and talked to, and that has been very helpful as well. I do agree too that the monuments, I'd like the idea of them being replaced somewhere else, and the visitor center makes good sense. And I also like the idea of the wall as well. So whatever look that takes, I think those are two ideas, and there are probably more out there. I just, again, want to say thank you. I'm sure I'm not touching everything right now, but like he said, we have a lot to process right now. I've written everything down. I'll go back and read it, but I really just wanted to say thank you, and I'd like to cede the rest of the time to another council member. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Benjamin.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody's passion here, and the thing that at first it speaks to me is that you care about our community. And that's important. And for the council, we know that we're not up here alone, but we are representing each of you in the community, and it's important for us to be able to listen to that and respond to it. I will say that we've been in this conversation since 2019, and it would have been helpful for us for this conversation earlier. I do believe that it would have been helpful for us as a council if we had, in March, when we'd come up with the plan, actually released and then had a public comment, a period to where we then have this. Thank you. To continue this conversation, similar with Councilmember Dubin, I took notes on all this. I feel this is very critical. Each person, what you had to say. And it's not an easy situation. We need to go back and have conversations on the construction process and what trees can survive. As Councilmember Park said, that's a very big concern, because we're not just replacing sidewalks, we're actually replacing infrastructure underneath the sidewalks and what impact that has on the trees. And so we need to verify which trees would be affected in that process also. How can we do the right thing in the midst of this? I do appreciate the graphics of the Walk of Fame monuments. That's something that it actually makes it clearer as we're looking at that Walk of Fame, and we want to honor the people that have had tremendous impact in our community. But something like that is something that we need to take a look at that design, because of the impact it has for sight lines, the impact that it has on the look and feel as it relates to what we want to create and what we want the downtown to be. I appreciate everyone here and you taking the time to come out and talk to us, and I hope that this is not the last time that you're in the council members, and many of you do come to other meetings and do provide comment, and I've definitely appreciated the conversations as other council members have talked about it, the conversations that we've had in the last few weeks, as this has really become increasingly passionate in this. And with that, there's a lot that we need to think about, and as a council then come together related to this. So thank you.
Councilmember Wright.
Thank you, Megan. And thanks to all of you for coming out tonight. And again, I will reiterate the passion that all of you show to this project. That tells me that we need to be listening to you. Having said that, I'll go back to one experience with the trees, and that is two of my fellow council members were at a conference in 2018 in Yakima, where this very subject of trees and suspended sidewalks came up, and what could we do to introduce that to Pullman. And that was a year before the first study, the BDS study, and then secondly, when the ARPA funds became available for us to be able to look at the infrastructure needs that we had. I mean, that was initially when we started looking at the tree issue. And I know 25 years ago when those trees were planted, the main reason for them, for that choice of tree, was that they all dropped their leaves at the same time. So it was minimal work on the part of cleanup. You know, you're not dropping it for 3 months at a time. And as Mr. Domi indicated, the fruits, the plums, the pears, it was just a mess. And so that was the right decision at the time. Of course, not knowing, you know, hindsight is always 20/20, and not knowing what would have come forward here 5 years later with the shallow tree wells. And again, what we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what the ongoing health of these trees is going to be as we go forward, but we certainly do need to consider a few of the ideas and the comments that were made here tonight. It has been a very difficult process starting, in October of last year, when all of this first came about and discussion started happening. I just wish that we had all of this passion that we're experiencing tonight that we'd had a year ago. But again, hindsight's 2020, we can't go back there. We just need to go forward looking at what can we do to make the best decisions. And as all of us have indicated, we need the time. I, like everybody else, I've got pages and pages of notes here. I took notes from everybody that spoke here tonight, and we will have to continue to consider those and look at what's realistic and what isn't. I also will echo my sentiments on the monuments. I was on record early on that I did not like the placement of those monuments, and as we can see them here in true size, I still don't like them. I think there are other things we can do to honor the original purpose of the memorial, whether that be an actual walk of fame with a different set of pavers or monuments that would be in the sidewalk itself. Or I love the idea of a wall of fame, possibly at the visitor center. I think there are alternatives that we can be looking at, just as what we're looking at in all of the comments that were made here tonight. So again, having said all those things, I appreciate everyone coming. I appreciate you all for bringing those concerns forward. And the best that we can do is review all of this and hope to make the best possible decision for everybody involved. So again, thank you very much for your energy, your passion, and your time. Thank you.
I do have a few comments that I would like to just say personally. So just like Nate, I have a elderly mother who likes to get out every now and then, and she uses a walker, and I can tell you one of our favorite things to do is to go to Roost, but it is like treachery to get through the sidewalks for an elderly 90-year-old woman, and I'm worried that she's going to fall because those sidewalks are pushed up and heaved up because of the trees. That does not make me say that we need to get rid of all the trees, okay? But that is a reality. Our sidewalks are being pushed up. And we are out of compliance with ADA. And that is a reality of a city that we could be at risk of people falling. And that is something that we are tasked with as council to look at it and to take into consideration. I want to echo what my fellow council members are saying. It does my heart really good to see everybody engaged, but boy, it would be great if you guys were engaged earlier and became part of the process early and engaged in the democratic process and be part of your community. And that means sitting through some tedious meetings, and I hear what you're saying. I get it in terms of moving up the public comment period for convenience sake, but part of being a community member is sitting through the meetings and listening to what the decisions are, and not just the ones that are convenient for you. So that's something that I feel strongly about, is getting engaged, and look at the impact you have when you do get engaged, because already you've made your case, certainly with the monuments. And then finally, it breaks my heart to hear someone say that they think our town is ugly. It absolutely breaks my heart. And it is everybody's responsibility to make downtown Pullman a beautiful place. It is not just council members, it is everybody. We've hired a new Downtown Pullman Association director. We need volunteers who will participate in this process. And we've been begging for volunteers to sit on our commissions. So please, please, please get involved. That is how it's going to change.
So my question is, my understanding, and I have attended one or two city council meetings, and I watched many of them. is that when you attend city council and you want to make a comment, you can only make a comment on a final agenda item. And these Welsh Cone presentations, in the 4 or 5 meetings I watched, never a final agenda item, so it was not possible to make comment at city council about them. So how are we supposed to do that if they're not in that category where we can comment on them? And that's my question.
To that one?
Eileen?
I'll step on the third rail here. That is a guidance. That is a guidance that we can only accept comment on things where a final decision is being made. That's a guidance. That's not a hard, fast rule. There is some gray area in it. It is the discretion of the chair as to when discussion or public input will be taken, and obviously there's always a consideration of time. So that is a talk to your chair, whoever your chair may be, about that particular procedure. There's always the opportunity under new business to bring things up at the end of the meetings. So I know it's a cliche also, but decisions are made by those who are in the room. And if you have something to say, you are always eligible to say that under new business. Chances are excellent that you will get only 3 minutes, and that's the custom of this body. A lot has to do with the custom of a given body and not necessarily, and I'm a rules wonk. I mean, there's no doubt about that. So if you have got something, bring it up under new business, you'll get your 3 minutes. There's also the opportunity for council to query that speaker. It has been the custom of this body to adjourn the meetings hastily after that new business period. It doesn't have to be that way. Council members can ask, if you say, I have a feeling about whatever, then you can give your 3 minutes, and then I can ask you a question. I can say, what is your background? What is your, what input do you have in addition to this? How can we follow up on that? So council members need to brush up on the rules as well and know that they can ask, that 3 minutes is not a dead cutoff. It is the opportunity for you to say, I want this, or I want, yeah, and then council members can query that person. And if another person is again, this is kind of a communication between you and the chair, and it's helpful to communicate to the chair ahead of time. But yeah, there's always an opportunity to speak. You just have to kind of walk through the process and understand it. Oh, the mayor is usually the chair, not always. Like I say, I'm the rules wonk, so I use the term chair or presiding officer. So yeah, the presiding officer, which is usually the chair or the mayor.
You're putting a lot on us, okay? And we're not.
Banush, can you come to the mic?
Thank you. I said, you're putting a lot on us, and we're not familiar with your rules and regulations and policies. So it needs to be on your website. It needs to be probably posted here somewhere. I mean, in many different formats, so people know. After a few months of living here, I came to 2 of the meetings when I found out about the downtown plan, and I was looking for, okay, when do I get to speak? And then I saw, oh, you don't get to speak because this is not on the agenda for a final decision. So that's why I never got to speak.
Megan, can I, or did we?
Just a quick comment on that. If you are on the website and looking at agendas for any given council meeting, on the agenda is an item on there for new business and how to bring that up. That's part of the agenda.
And then if I can add to that just for a moment, the city council agendas drop Thursday afternoon, and that was a really good way to see what's coming up, what's going to be discussed. Is this something I care about if I want to get involved with? And if you have any questions at all, you have your representatives here. just reach out, send an email, say, you know what, this is really important to me. I know I've talked to you about this before, but I'd like to speak to the whole council about this. How do I do this? And then we will guide you through that process.
I'm sorry, but as someone who has been actively involved with this entire process, yeah, that's just false. It's just completely false. We literally, on multiple occasions, multiple business owners have attended city council meetings trying to make public comment, told multiple city council members that we wanted to make public comment and were shut down. Literally told we were not allowed to speak on it. It did not matter because it was not new business. The project downtown Pullman was never new business. Therefore, you couldn't discuss it. On top of that, I know that you guys are concerned about time and trying to redo this design. And the problem is it does need to get redone. It needs to get redone, period. End of story. There is over 70 different design elements that I just got, that number from Welsh Comer, that needs to be addressed, that business owners have been trying to address with the help of city staff. On top of that, the miscommunication, the absolute asinine amount of hush-hush and not allowing business owners to ever have comment is insane. It's just insane. It has been insane since March. That the fact that there was over 7 businesses downtown that didn't even know this project was happening as of March of this year. They had not been contacted. The only thing the city of Pullman thought that was appropriate was they sent a postcard, a single postcard. Oh, by the way, in English. So all the people that unfortunately can't speak English or can't read English, guess what? Sucks for them. Guess they're not gonna know about the project. On top of that, we keep talking about the fact that, that this will delay the project or it'll cost more. It doesn't matter if it costs more if we find grants, if we find money that is out there, that we now have a dedicated grant writer. Why does it matter if we can find the money for it? Why does it matter? We need to do this project correct and in the way that the city of Pullman wants, not 6 hand-picked individuals by Glenn Johnson. I'm sorry, but it's not okay. It was not okay that business owners that have been crying out to be heard since March of this year, when we all started to become way more active in it because it was rushed through in 2022. That's my sense.
Okay, we'll accept 2 more comments because we're approaching 9 o'clock.
Thank you. My name is Yarma. I lived here in Pullman for 25 years. And I'm sort of ashamed to say this is the first time I'm coming to a city council meeting. And I'm glad I came. So it's on me, of course. But I heard a few comments, many of you saying that we should have voiced our opinion earlier. I would say to you, as decision makers, as leaders, if it's a wrong decision, it doesn't matter. When you hear from the people, I think you can go back. It's not too late. So decision makers should make right decisions, not because we haven't voiced our opinion earlier. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
I realize I've already spoken, but I also take contention with all the responsibility that's placed on the citizens. I retired from WSU Honors College in 2018, and I have worked for this community in many volunteer capacities. I only learned the trees were being cut down in August. I wrote all of you on 30th August, and I looked at nobody had read the letter. My council people are Ann Parks, and Benjamin, and Eileen at large. No one answered. I've written you before. Never do you answer. I'm an artist. I was an art historian. I would serve on the Arts Commission if you also hadn't ditched them and thrown them under the bus with the mural fiasco. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. We're at 9 o'clock. Thank you very much for your comments and coming out tonight.